welcome to the third season of Johnna Knows Good Food. I'm Johnna, and on today's show, I'll focus on good food for parties. First, I'll start with a smoked spinach dip that will take you 5 minutes to prep. Then we'll move on to some of the sweetest fried potatoes that you've ever tasted. And this season, we're doing things a little bit different. I'll have a guest on a little bit later in the show, sharing a recipe that we all think about, but we're probably too afraid to try it. This is going to be a fun show, so let's get started. My first recipe is a smoked spinach dip, which I'm going to make in my slow cooker. So it's basically like a one-pot meal. I'm going to start with 1 cup of smoked Gouda cheese. I'm going to grate it up with the grater. And I'm going to also start with a half a cup of grated Parmesan cheese. And then I'm going to start with 8 ounces of cream cheese. Now, you want the cream cheese to kind of soften up, so I'll put that in last. But with the Gouda, we'll go ahead and start grating that up. Now, you can use any type of smoked cheese that you like. I just decided to choose the smoked Gouda because I like the way that it tastes. I'm just going to cut off the edges here, get those discarded. Now, actually, I experimented yesterday and tasted these edges, which you might not want to do, but they're actually pretty darn tasty. And they taste like the cheese, almost like a bacon flavor. I mean, if you don't eat bacon, then this is, a nice alternative to get like that smoky flavor in there. Now, what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm just going to grate this up. This is about a half a block of the smoked Gouda cheese that you can just pick up at your local grocery store. And like I said, you can use any other alternative. Now, another good alternative might be a smoked mozzarella, which is just as delicious. And a lot of people like to actually add mozzarella into their spinach dip. But like I said, the smoky flavor adds just a little bit of something that, is missing from the typical spinach dip. Now, I like to prep this when there's like a big game night, or if there's a party, or it's just some simple celebration. Pretty much this is a great dish when food is really not the center of attention, because spinach dip is such a basic part of the typical party. This is about a cup, maybe a little bit more than I would have liked. But for now, I'm just going to add that in, because who can't get enough of cheese? I'm just going to add this into the crock pot. And you're going to see everything's going to go into this one crock pot. I'm going to turn this crock pot on to high, because we want that to go ahead and start working and getting warm for the rest of the ingredients. Like I said, I'm going to use about a half a cup of grated Parmesan cheese, and I'm just going to sprinkle that in there. Now, why am I adding my cheeses first? Because once I put my spinach in, I want to bring that cheese to the top and just, to combine really the way I really want it to go together, mix in well. Now, like I said, my sour cream is, or not sour cream, cream cheese. They're all in the same family, so I tend to call them the same names at times. But anywho, my cream cheese is basically softened enough, because I've had it sitting out for a while, and I just put it in the refrigerator for the last couple of minutes just to make sure it was still, it stays a little bit chilled, not too much, but it's going to cook in the slow cooker for about 2 hours. So it's going to definitely be warm. Getting a little messy here. Sour cream can be that way. And like I said, this is a quick little recipe. Now I'm just going to sit that in there. Everything does not look as appealing as it should right now. Just going to swing over to the sink and get my hands cleaned off here, because the cream cheese is I'm stuck to pretty much glued to my hands. Now, the next thing I like to add is garlic. I use about 2 cloves of garlic. That's more than enough for me. Now, if you want to add more, feel free. Garlic, salt, and pepper are to taste for me all day. To that, I already have 2 cloves already chopped up, so I'm just going to add those in right here. I love garlic. It adds just the perfect amount of flavor. I mean, you can add, if you want more of a garlic taste at the end, you can add in some garlic powder, garlic salt, whatever you like. To this, I'm going to add the final piece of the puzzle, which is the spinach. And you see, the spinach should already be thawed. I'm using basically frozen spinach. Now, feel free, if you want to start from scratch, you can definitely do that. You can make everything from scratch. I'm just emptying this out here. I had it thawed out. And like I said, it's not the most, beautiful dish at the beginning, but at the end, this is going to be really beautiful. And the last piece to this is the artichokes, because it is a spinach and artichoke dip. Now, I'm using canned. Now, feel free to blanch the artichokes and go through the full process if you want to make your artichokes from scratch. But if you're pressed for time and this is just a quick party, dish that you want to make, then just toss them in from the can, and there you go. You have all your ingredients. I'm going to mix all of this together, and like I said, just fold that in. You can mix it, fold it, whatever, however you like it, because in the end, it's going to turn into this beautiful and delicious party dip that you can prepare without even standing over the stove, basically. You see how quick this took me? It took me like 5 minutes. So I am mixing all of this in, and we're going to let that sit, because do you see the chunks in there? That's really the cream cheese, and that just needs to soften up for a while. So I'm just going to sit this to the side, discard those, add a little bit of salt or pepper, add a little bit of salt to this. And like I said, I just do enough to cover the top, cover it, and I'm just going to leave that and wait for the party to start, basically, so I can put this with my my dippings, my pairings, whatever I'm going to use to dip it with. And like I said, I can just leave this in. So it's 2 hours later, and the spinach dip is ready. And I'm just putting it into my serving dish from the crock pot, and it smells amazing in here, and it looks delicious. So I'm just going to prep that. I think that's more than enough to serve to my guests. And over here, basically, so the dish is done. Over here, I have not just basic tortilla chips, and I have some portobello mushrooms. Now, the portobello mushrooms I thought would be an excellent idea to scoop out the spinach dip instead of your typical, tortilla chips. So all you have to do is scoop out some of this and pile it on top of there. And there you go. This is for your guests. Mushrooms and spinach go perfect together. So I'm just going to stick that in there. And I'm going to take a bite of this just to see how it came out. That's perfect. Perfect match, perfect dish, perfect thing to take to a party. And I'm going to sit that down because I'm going to share this, of course, with my second guest. Now for the second recipe that I'm going to make. These are for the sweet potato fries. What I have right here is a sweet potato, and I'm just going to peel that. I mean, I'm so glad that they created the peeler. It makes peeling potatoes 1,000 times easier. I can get this done in half the time, because I remember back when my aunt used to peel a whole bunch of potatoes for potato salad. It would take her hours to peel a whole bag. If we were having a big family dinner or something like that, and she's like one of the primary cooks in my family. It would take her a very long time to peel all these potatoes, and it just made me think, like, I don't want to make potato salad if it's going to, cause that many issues. And the same with French fries, homemade French fries at home. But I find that it's a lot healthier, and it's really easy once you use the potato peeler. As you can see, most of the skin is gone, and we're ready to cut them up for the sweet potato fries. So basically, these sweet potato fries are going to be sweet instead of the typical, savory flavor that most people are used to in their, sweet potatoes or sweet potato fries that have salt on them. So I'm just going to cut that halfway through, and I'm making shorter sweet potato fries. So we're going to just cut that, like I said, in half. And now I'm just going to cut down the center. I don't know what's going on. My knife is giving me a little bit of issues, and it's pretty sharp. So I'm a little surprised by this. I'm going to cut that in half, and we're just going to stick these in the deep fryer, which seems to be, the oil seems to be heating up. Feel free to use whatever type of oil that you typically use for frying foods. I am using a canola oil today. You can use a vegetable oil, whatever you like to fry your foods in, basically. I would stay away definitely from olive oils, which it tends to dry the food out. And I prefer to saute things with olive oil. But as far as the other oils, like I said, I'm using today a canola oil. And I think it works out pretty good because when I tried this recipe at home, it came out really delicious. And the fries were just like, the oil just did it for me. I mean, I drained it, of course. I don't want to keep it too unhealthy. But it tastes, they taste just as good. That gives me, that timer has went off and tells me that I've had my oil heated for 10 minutes. Now, it depends on your deep fryer. I have mine set to 375 because my deep fryer is a little bit, it's not as high quality as some of the other ones. So I tend to turn it up a notch so it'll reach the temperature that I like. And you should never drop these right into the heat. You should always have this hoisted on top, and your deep fryer should have some sort of rack for you to do that. Now I'm just sticking those in here, and all of my fries are in there, ready to be thrust into the heat. And so I'm just going to drop those in there. And you hear that sizzle? Oh yeah, the heat was ready for it. You see all that steam? So I'm just going to close that so I don't burn myself. And I'm going to move away from this pot, and I'm just going to let that cook for the next 10 minutes. See the steam? It already smells amazing. I love the smell of oil. I know that's weird. So now for the second part of this is I'm going to make a whipped topping to go on top of the sweet potato fries because, as I said before, I'm not making mine the typical way. I'm going to make it sweeter than sweet. So I'm going to go over here and grab my kitchen mixer so that way I can make the homemade whipped topping. And now for the whipped topping. To this, I'm just going to add about a cup of heavy whipping cream to my mixer. Should probably lift this up so that way I can squeeze it in there. And I'm just going to add to this. It's very, very simple to make homemade whipped cream. I'm just going to add to this about a tablespoon of, actually I have some tablespoon of powdered sugar here. But first, before I do that, I'm going to start this up and get it mixing until it gets to a foam, almost like not foamy, I don't want to use that word, but it's a little bit of, foam at the top. And that way I can add in the powdered sugar and it'll thicken it up. And I don't want to thicken it up too much because then it'll be too stiff and it won't get the consistency that I like. But to this, I'm going to add, now it's getting a little foamy. I don't think you can see it, but if you can see in here, then I'm just adding in my powdered sugar. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons, or a tablespoon and a half. And as you can see, I like to measure things out because, as I said in my first episode, it really helps me to see what I did wrong, what I need to change, things like that. Now with this, I'm just going to stick these in the sides, make sure all that, having a little fight here with my mixer. I'm going to add in about a teaspoon of vanilla just to give it that, that whipping cream flavor. And I'm just going to continue to let that mix until it gets thicker. Now, I'm going to keep that going because the whipped topping is almost ready. And see, the whipped topping is getting to the thickness that I need, and my fries are almost ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this, or my timer has pretty much went off. I'm going to remove the sweet potatoes from the heat. Open that while this is mixing. You see how quick this is? And they're working together. Now my whipped topping is ready for me to put on top of the sweet potatoes. I'm going to cut this off now because it's thick enough for me to stick on top of or top on top of my sweet potatoes. Now, that's the great thing about the drainer. They're already pretty much drained. I'm just going to add them to this plate. And you're going to see how quick and simple of a snack this is. This is a great, great, great party treat. I mean, and it's definitely not, the healthiest thing on the planet, but it is delicious. Now, on top of this, I'm going to sprinkle my powdered sugar. And you see, by itself, you would think, oh, this tastes amazing. But it doesn't or it does taste good, but with the whipped topping, it tastes even better. So, to this, or actually I'm going to grab some that I already have I can use this. I'm like, I have enough. So, this is just a little bit of whipped cream on top. And it just kind of goes like, this is the consistency I want it. I don't want it too thick like you would see in the store. I wanted it just enough cream to make it a real, delicious, decadent dessert. And that's exactly what it is. So, to that, I'm going to just grab one right off top. And they're hot. But you see how that powdered sugar is sprinkling off and all that steam? It's like melting before and melting outside of my mouth. But, oh my gosh. You should be in here right now. This is the most delicious